Office of Independent Police Monitor defends its decision to send a letter to the New Orleans City Council president to draw attention to a potentially compromised NOPD investigation.
The Police Monitor sent a letter last month after it was made aware that the NOPD Public Integrity Bureau interviews were accidentally released. Those interviews were part of the investigation into NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappie and the time he spent with Mayor Cantrell on and off the clock inside a city-owned apartment when he was a member of her security team. The Police Monitor told the Ethics Review Board today that it followed protocols and that nothing prevented it from alerting the City Council about the breach. The Police Monitor says it's still unclear how the audio recordings were leaked from the NOPD.
Because of the high probability of this becoming an overly political investigation, more so than any other investigation that we could think of, that this information would be under lock and key. These officers were often working on this investigation at other locations other than the Public Integrity Bureau to ensure that the materials that they were handling was not going to be inadvertently observed, seen, overheard by other PIB investigators.
The office says it has a responsibility to identify and address perceived missteps and deviations from policy and law and behavior that would cast doubt on the integrity of any misconduct investigation within the NOPD.